I consider like that, like.
June 1st, 2020. Going to ask everyone either to stay seated or stand, whichever enables you to see the flag near Mr. Hurley's box.
If I stand, you won't be able to see it.
Got it. I pledge allegiance to the
To
flag
the flag
of
of the United States of America
to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which
for which it
it
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mr. Kelly, if you could please take roll.
Sure. Mrs. Ahmed?
Kelly, you're muted.
You're on mute.
Present.
Mr. Conti?
Present.
Mr. Healy?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
Present.
Mrs. Labrera? Mr. Mazzone? Dr. Racine?
Here.
Mr. Sprayberry?
Here.
Dr. Olati?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. So there is a need for an executive session. So it's 7:31 p.m. I'm going to motion that we go into executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we'll pause the recording so we could start our executive session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
And I'm going to let in the three people. Okay?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, at 7:52 p.m., we're returning to regular session of the Rutherford Board of Education meeting, June 1st, 2020. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meeting of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Rutherford Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place posted on the bulletin board outside the Borough Clerk's office, mailed to the Herald, South Bergenite, and the Record newspapers, and filed with the Borough Clerk. The agenda is posted electronically on the Friday before the meeting's date on the district's website at www.rutherfordschools.org. Due to the Governor's Executive Order 104, citing the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's recommendation for cancellation or postponement of gatherings of 50 or more people for the coming weeks, this regular meeting of the Rutherford Board of Education will be conducted utilizing video conferencing as allowed by the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, as amended by PL 2020 C11. Members of the public may participate by logging on to the following website at 7:30 p.m. as listed on the agenda. Please note that this meeting of the Rutherford Board of Education will begin at 7:30 p.m., but the board will immediately, and we did already, enter into a brief executive session to discuss personnel matters in which members of the public may not participate. A video recording of the video conference meeting will be made available on the district's website, www.rutherfordschools.org, subsequent to the meeting. The video link can be found by opening the Board of Education link and clicking on public meetings and then videos. So board members, you had in your meeting packets, regular meeting and executive session meeting minutes from May 11th, 2020. Does anyone have any questions or comments about either of those? Okay, hearing none, we'll ask that those be entered into our files.
Okay.
And now we're going to move on to the report of the superintendent.
Thank you. I have several items I want to cover when we get to that part of the agenda, so I'll keep them out of my report, and I'll just interject there so they're connected closer to the actual resolution. But to review a couple of things that are of importance, I think, really of importance. As we're moving it out to the month of June, I'm I'm really beginning to focus a lot more of my attention on what's going to be happening in September. And every day there is documents coming from someplace, different states, different educational associations, different school systems, and they all raise questions, and they all raise different scenarios, and they all raise different ideas, which are going to be very helpful as we try to put together whatever we're going to be doing. But, nobody has any answers yet, and nobody has any guidance yet as to what to expect. From the State Department of Education, the 6 regions have been established, and county executives, the county, for lack of a better word, the county superintendent, a county superintendent is chairing each of those sections. So 6 of the counties are chairing, 6 of the county executives are chairing that. That group is reaching out to the various school districts. What are your concerns? What do you think? What do you know, the health department and so on? And they're going to present a report to the DOE, which hopefully will guide us. Bergen County has taken it upon itself to form committees to cover topics. One topic being dealing with the regulations and the mandates that come down, governance sort of a committee. Another committee is going to deal with curriculum. Another committee is going to deal with PPE, what requirements may or may not be established. Another committee is going to deal with school day and scheduling. I have volunteered to be on a couple of those committees. They just put the list out for volunteers the other day, so I've yet to hear if I'll be on one or not. But whether I'm on or not, the committees will be functioning. District-wide, we created a committee that included administrators, supervisors, and a couple of teachers. And that committee, again, nobody has answers, but looked at different scenarios. What would we be doing if we're all back? What would we be doing if it's kind of a hybrid? What are we going to be doing if it's this is, all the different what ifs, right? And now we're kind of hit the pause button on that. And we're going to wait to get some guidance from the state or the county. This cannot be a local decision. And it will not be a local decision because you're dealing with issues that have health, safety, economic, political. There's a lot of different players in this mix. It's going to have to be guidance from the state. And the guidance that we get may allow us on the local level to make decisions, right? So they might say you have to do some kind of a hybrid or split, figure out how you're going to do it, okay? They may say you can do this, but you can't do that. Or you can provide that, but you don't have to, you know what I'm saying? So they're going to give us, they have to give us guidance. And I hope they realize that in 95 days, approximately, school starts. It's not a lot of time. I'll be very frank. I know we're recording this, and you never know where it's going to wind up. But you get to a certain point in life, like it's almost like what can they do to you, right? The direction we've gotten from the state has been a day late and a dollar short. And it's changed. They say something on Tuesday, and by Wednesday morning, they're changing it again. The biggest issue they have to face, graduation is important. I get it. Graduation is not educating every child pre-K to the age of 21 in the state of New Jersey in 3 months. So the inability to come out with a clear and consistent direction on that issue really concerns me about what we're going to hear on the bigger issues. And if you don't think I don't want to go on and on because I could, and I now, my wife gives me only 20 minutes a day to be allowed to speak because I ramble like this, and she doesn't want to hear it anymore. So on Friday, they say that 14 and 15-year-olds can play Babe Ruth baseball, but they can't play high school baseball. It's the same game, same equipment, same rules. So there's such strangeness coming out, right? And somehow we got to open our doors, either really open them or partially open them or do something else in 3 months. We also have to have orientation for new teachers. We have to orientation for new students come into their new school. We have to figure out, are you having a band? Are you having a sports season? Are you transporting kids out of district on a bus? If you're a busing district, are you transporting your kids to school on a bus? A lot of our districts in the state are busing districts. If you can't put 25 kids in a classroom, why can't you put 35 on a bus? If you have to do multiple trips, who's paying for that? Okay, so it's there's so much to get done. We need some decisions, or at least some ground rules. So hopefully they're coming soon. So that's really been my focus, on trying to read as much as I can, trying to network as much as I can, asking people to send me information if they have it, so that when they open up the faucet, we can come out full stream. Okay. All right. Second thing is graduation. Now, graduation, the governor said everybody's getting a puppy for Christmas, and then a day later, DOE said, well, maybe not. It may be like a picture of a puppy, right? Because right now we have to run graduation under the guidelines that are in effect. We can only have 25 people at a time. You got to take their temperature. You got to do all. You can't use the same microphone. You can't handle a diploma. They want you to be quick. They want you to cut out. It's not the ceremony people thought they were going to have. So what do we do? I don't know right now. I really don't know. What we're doing right now is we're taking a deep breath, and we have suspended but not canceled our plans for virtual. We have a date in mind for a ceremony outside, and I'm hoping again that we're going to hear some definitive information soon. There is a form that I have to fill out to go to the State Department of Education if I'm planning on doing an outdoor graduation, okay? And I have to tell them now it would be nice if I tell you, you have to take a test. And if I'll give you a rubric for the test. So I'm hoping when I have to fill this form out, they'll tell me what I'm allowed to do. Because my plan would be, let's put 500 people down the field and spread them out. But if they tell me you can't do that, I failed the test, right? If they tell me I can't do that, then maybe we can't do it. So I'm hoping that this Friday, when they release that form, which, by the way, they usually release things like about 8:30, 9 o'clock on a Friday night. I don't understand that. When they release the form on Friday, I'm hoping that we at least know, hey, is this doable? Is this not doable? If it's doable, how can we do it? Okay. And I'm kind of tired now of trying to pretend like we're the ones that can't figure this out. We figured out how to do it virtual with a car, and then they said we couldn't do that. Then we figured out how to do virtual when they told us we had to do that. And then they said, okay, you can do outside. We figured out how to do that. So far we figured out 3 ways of doing it. They just have to tell us which one's allowed. Okay? So again, I'll keep you posted. This afternoon, I spent an hour and a half like I mentioned in the executive session briefly. I had an hour and a half with superintendents around the county talking about graduation. And again, important, but man, we have a big, big mountain to climb, how to figure out how to open school. And there's a lot of hours and stress and money and time going to this ceremony. And please don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I know the importance of it. But if we could live, I think the parents and the kids might be unhappy, but they could live with the decision. But what we can't live with is this constant roller coaster. And that's what it's been so far. And it's frustrating. And we have a parent nodding her head in agreement. So if I run for office, I want you in the audience, okay? All right. I got a little good news. I do have some good news. I'll end with 2 bits of good news. Thanks to Mr. Healy and giving me a contact with the New York Giants. We have a member of the Giants who are going to be zooming into a science class in Union School on Wednesday. And I don't want to say which class and all that, but it's a guy who actually not only is a player, but was a science teacher, long-term science teacher. And that's his goal when he stops playing. So that should be fun for the kids, to get that. And they're also sending us some videos and stuff like that for the seniors which is nice. So I appreciate the Giants. I mean, they've been taking my money for a long time and finally giving us something back. They haven't given me much pleasure on the field the last couple of years, so at least they do. Facilities update. I'll let Joe fill you in on some of that, but everything is going right now at just about all the schools that the plans are up. Not all the schools. So the high school in Stein, I'll let Joe fill you in on a couple of details, but the high school is going, Lincoln, Union, and the kindergarten center is going to get started in about a week's time. And we have Pierpont's bid opening coming soon, and we have workers on site. They're going. We got some good news. The steel's being fabricated for Lincoln. We got good news. The wood's arriving for the floors in Union. So, so far, it's still a long way to go. But so far, things are going in the right direction. Mr. Kelly, you want to add anything to that?
There's not much to add, but yeah, everything is underway. So we got a nice head start because of these closing of schools. Even if they're not doing they're not physically on location, they are preparing. They're communicating with the architects to understand the scope. The abatement work is underway or is being prepared. So we've got a nice head start because of this. So that's the silver lining from all this. So.
And we do have a Building and Grounds Committee meeting. While I'm giving my report, I'll just review that with you all right now. We have Building and Grounds. I think we're going 6:45 with Curriculum and Instruction. Finance is next, right, Joe? At 7:15.
Yes.
And Building and Grounds then at 7:45, all through Zoom on the 15th. I'll send you all, or whoever, either Joe or I, depending on what committee it is, we'll send you Zoom invites ahead of time. We'll try to stick to that half-hour schedule since people will be waiting to come on for the next meeting. So it'll be kind of a, here's the stuff, and if you have any quick questions. But in Building and Grounds, we'll be able to update that committee on what's happening in the interim and what's going on with the bid going out for Pierpont, and also the summer projects that, apart from the facilities, that are also getting underway. And for finance, we'll talk a little bit about the money and how that's going with the various projects. And curriculum instruction, we have a couple of things that we need to approve, textbooks and curriculum is standard fare that we normally would have done in April if we had a normal circumstance. Okay, so I'm done.
Can I just ask a quick question? Have we made it intentional to families how they can get access to information about facilities projects? Like, I know that we know where it is, but have we made it intentional that everyone knows how to access the info?
Yeah, I mean, on at least 2 or 3 things I put out, we've talked about the one Rutherford website. We also have it still on our main page, right? And we mentioned it to the PTAs, and I'll continue to mention it. We also have a newsletter that our communications team is working on for the end of June, and we'll make sure, and that goes to the whole community. So there'll be an update about the projects on there, but I'll make sure, and Joe, maybe you can remember this, that we'll remind them to also remind everybody that you can go there.
Mm-hmm.
Great. All right. Any questions for Mr. Hurley? Hearing none, we're going to move on to the report of the president. So thank you, Jack, for the thorough and comprehensive report. I know that we have a lot of compassion and empathy with everything you're going through. Besides just doing the job of running the district, you've got a lot of other things on your plate on top of that. So you definitely have our appreciation and support. I know you shared your sentiments that we're going to do as much as we can for the Rutherford High School students and graduation within the confines of what's possible. And, I'm confident, I know the board's confident that, you'll do the best you can to deliver on whatever guidance is given. I wanted to just take a moment and acknowledge and thank the Rutherford Education Foundation that funded over, I believe it's $80,000 in grants for the school district, which is phenomenal. The Rutherford Education Foundation, as you know, it's got a near and dear place in my heart. Christina Cole has done a great job of running the show there for the last 4 years, and I know Andy Mikowski is taking over as the new president, so I'm sure he'll do a great job. Also want to thank the board members for completing the CSA evaluation, taking the time to do that, and we'll be discussing that in executive session. Finally, just the last thing, I wanted to take a moment and I wanted to recognize this past week the horrible murder that took place of George Floyd and the protests that are calling for racial justice and the unfortunate violence that's erupting all over the place. And, you know, as this plays out against the backdrop of the pandemic, that's kept everyone home for months, I believe it's incumbent upon us as a governing body, in partnership with the superintendent, to recognize that every student in this district who has a smartphone, access to a computer, technology, the internet, they're all talking about what's going on across the country right now. And I just hope, and I know, and I'm confident that more than ever, that our schools can be a place where all the students feel safe, where they feel valued, and that we're providing the emotional support and the character development for our students to help create a stronger future. So that's my report. Any questions or comments?
Just one comment. At my county meeting today, it was decided, again, for the sake of cohesiveness, perhaps, or that the county superintendents will be, the organization is going to draft a statement to share related to the incidents that you just spoke about, Dr. Olati, and send it out to all of us in the next day or so for us then to tweak and use as we see fit, whether it be sent to students or the community or the website or whatever we think. So there will be a statement of sorts coming out.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm hearing no other comments. We don't have the student representative here tonight, right?
Come the last meeting of June.
Okay, great. So it is 8:12 p.m. and we're going to open the meeting to the public for any comments at this point related to the agenda this evening. Any comment? Hearing none, at 8:12 p.m. we're going to close the meeting. And now we're going to move into new business where action will be taken. And we're going to start with personnel. Mrs. Ahmed.
Thank you, Dr. Olati. We have motions today. Hopefully we will pass, starting with number 1, Andrew Howell, his resignation. Number 2, coordinator summer elementary programs, to rescind the approval of Darlene Monticello as the coordinator of summer elementary programs from July 6, 2020 through July 31st. And then coordinator of before and after care program, we're going to approve her for coordinator of the day before and after care program in the district 220-221 school year for a stipend of $20,000. Number 4, Nina Rose Barsenis, approve her as an English teacher at Rutherford High School in September. Okay. Number 5, Mary Olivo as a part-time elementary, approve her as a part-time elementary teacher at Washington for September. Francesca Master Piero, number 6, approve her as a long-term substitute guidance counselor at Union School. 7, service provider, to approve Judith Leonard and Lindsay Richmond as service at the new teacher orientation and necessary summer training at the hourly rate of $65 for up to 18 hours each. 8, increment withholding. Whereas the recommendation to withhold the employment and adjustment increments of employee number 142 was presented to the Board of Education by the superintendent. 9 to 20 virtual extended school year. For, let's see, to approve the following teachers for the virtual extended school year, and there's 8 of them listed there. 9, I mean, that was 9, right? Yeah. 10 summer staff for IEP meetings. There's 34 of those. To approve the following staff members to assist with summer IEP meetings at the hourly rate of $35. Number 11, coaching assignments. Everybody would be interested in those if you could get your, if you got, how do they don't see this, do they? There's no way for them to see all these people?
Yeah, the agenda is published online.
Oh, okay. So we had 62 of those for, let's go over a few of them here. Baseball, basketball, football, cross country, cheering, soccer, indoor lacrosse. They're all listed on the computer as Mr. Hurley. Okay, number 12, Stephanie Natiello. Approve a leave of absence for the Family Leave Act and also excuse absence days from June 19th to the 2/20 for to take her 6 days for having the Family Leave Act as before that. 13, Kathleen Wenzelberg to approve a leave of absence under just Family Leave Act on May 29th, 20 to 19/20 of June. 14, swing education. It's classes in school time for swing education substitute teacher service to augment the district substitute pool at the per diem rate of substitutes plus $25. With the board's approval, I'd like to move number 1 through 14.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ahmed. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mrs. Jones. Comments or questions about any of these?
I have a couple of comments. If there are any questions, I can answer them. The before and after care program, well, the rescinding of the previously approved coordinator of the summer program is because we're not running summer programs this year. The exception of the extended school year, which is mandated through students' IEP. And that will be run virtually in a similar manner that classes are currently run. So for the optional programs, the enrichment programs that were tuition-based and self-sustaining, we can't run them. We certainly cannot. We don't have guidelines yet to allow students into the building. And quite frankly, we want to keep the buildings. We have construction going on. We have enough going on in the buildings. If we can open, we want to make sure the buildings are ready to be open. But the before and after care, we're happy to have Ms. Monticello as coordinator. She's got a supervisory certificate. She's worked in the district for many years as a teacher in Lincoln School and has coordinated, and last year coordinated the summer program and really did a great job with changing it from what we call Jumpstart to a real enrichment program. So now we'll get going on getting that up and running. Again, we're going to be a little hampered by the unknowns. You know, are we starting this in September, or when are we starting this, and how's that being played out? I also want to mention that with the athletic coaches and with the practice approval that's done every year, we have to keep in mind, we're saying if the season begins, okay, if sports begin. That's still up in the air. And JSIA, we're lucky that Mr. Frazier has been asked to chair a committee about the reopening of sports. So we'll be getting firsthand information directly from NJSIA. It does have to get filtered through the grapevine. We'll see what happens, but we need to be ready. Same thing as with courtesy busing, same things with before and after care, same things with, you know, we have to be ready if we're opening up in September, be ready to go. Okay, so we're moving ahead as though we are planning to what to do if we don't. Okay, other than that is easy. I also want to make one other comment. We are happy that Steve Dunn, who was a longtime member of our football coaching staff, our head swim coach, a teacher in school, played at Rutherford High School as a football team, was our offensive coordinator for the years they won in the state championship games, left for a year to be a head coach somewhere else, and he's coming back to be our head coach. So we're pleased with that. And I just want to note that Andy Howell, wish him well. Andy was a very successful coach, but he was much more than that. If you only saw Andy on the sideline, you know, he's a real gentleman, class act, a great teacher, one of those leaders in the building. So I'm happy he's getting a chance to move into administration. Sorry to see him go. All right. So that's my comments. Anybody have any questions for me or for anybody?
Jack, Number 7, is that I think we usually pay that with Title I funds. Is that still the case for next year?
No, number 7 is for the new teacher orientation. We paid for that for Title I funds.
I thought we did, but,
That way we did in the past, we'll do this year. I don't,
okay. Well, I'll
Okay.
double check. So if it is Title I funds, I'll add that into the motion. So everybody.
all that, but you might be right, you know. You probably are right. You pay the bills.
So should we not be moving number 7?
No, we should move it because we have to have it. We have it every year. So it's just a question of where the
Where
fund is coming from. Title I, this is for the teachers though. Title I is not, it's not strictly for Title I. So
I'm sorry, Title IIA. That's what it is.
Title IIA, yeah, you're probably right. Yep.
Okay, I'll double check. If it is 2A, then I will put that into the wording.
Okay, well, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'm going to ask Mr. Kelly to please take roll.
Mrs. Ahmed,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Dr. Racine,
You're on mute, Dr. Racine.
Yes.
okay, Mr. Sprayberry,
Yes.
and Dr. Oladi.
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to curriculum instruction. Mrs. Jones, if you could take us through it.
Thank you. There are 5 resolutions under curriculum and instructions. These motions are put forward by the recommendation of the superintendent. Resolution 1, remote instruction. This, of course, has to do with the COVID-19 pandemic, and we have been in that remote instruction mode since March 18th, 2020. Resolution 2, the Rutherford Education Foundation. The Rutherford Education Foundation has grant funds to us in the amount of $42,225.50, plus the $38,506 for the lacrosse and the film projector for the high school, totaling $80,731.50. Resolution number 3, student suspension. Whereas on July 15, 2019, the Rutherford Board of Education passed a resolution suspending a student bearing identification number 11504-02300 until June 12, 2020. Whereas there's no longer a need for the Board of Education to continue the suspension beyond June 12, 2020, since the student no longer attends school in the Rutherford School District. And whereas there still exists a concern for the safety of staff members and students based on the student's prior conduct, be it resolved that the student shall not be permitted to be present on any of the Board of Education school campuses at any time unless specifically authorized by the superintendent. Be it further resolved that the student shall not be permitted to participate in any athletic, co-curricular, and or extracurricular activities sponsored by the Board of Education and shall not be present for or attend any Board of Education sponsored activities either on campus or in any school district where the Rutherford School District is participating in the activities. And be it further resolved that the student shall not be permitted to participate in graduation ceremonies in any activity pertaining to graduation. Resolution 4, out of district places as listed, and Resolution 5, NJSIAA, be it resolved as the Rutherford Board of Education to approve summer athletic practice for RHS during the 2020 NJSIA summer recess period. So that includes the resolutions under curriculum and instruction.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. Questions and comments by the board? Or Mr. Hurley?
Yeah, I just want to make a few comments. I know the board last month approved the remote instruction plan. It's constantly hearing again from the state, go back to what I said before, that they want to add this, we have to add that, so I had to revise it yet again, and we had to approve it yet again. Hopefully, the school year ends in 3 weeks. Hopefully, we're done revising this year's plan and we're good to go. On the Rutherford Education Foundation, I want to echo what Dr. Oladi said. We are pleased and happy and overwhelmed by the amount of funding that's coming our way. I do want to make it clear that, we are approving tonight the acceptance of 24 grants for the 42,000 and change, right? The other 2 grants were previously approved early in the year by the board, but the total is over that 80,000 mark, which is phenomenal. How it's grown in years. In the years since first, we used to get ecstatic with, and we, for every reason to be ecstatic, when it was 30,000. Now it's really grown to the hard work and dedication of the REF and the members of the community who support it. So we appreciate that. The NJSIA, again, we don't know when they're going to say we are practicing or what way, shape, or form we can. Annually, because it's called out-of-season practice, the board has to approve allowing that to happen. It will not happen until we're told it can happen, and it will only happen under the guidelines that we're told it can happen under. So doesn't mean tomorrow they're starting practice. It means, though, that if we hear on July 12th, we can, in certain ways, we can then begin. Okay? So I think that's all of my comments under this particular.
Okay, any questions or comments by board members? Hearing none. Ms. Jones, do you want to move those items?
I move resolutions 1 through 5 under curriculum and instruction.
All right, can I have a second?
A second.
All right, Mr. Healy, second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. Mr. Kelly, if you could take roll.
Of course, Mrs. Ahmed,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Dr. Racine. You're muted.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Sprayberry,
You're on mute.
Mr. Sprayberry, you're muted.
Yes.
Dr. Awadi,
Yes.
motion's carried. Thank you.
Okay, next we have finance. Dr. Racine, are you able to present on finance?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I am freezing up over here, so it's not just a mute problem. Is everything okay? I can't see any of you, so.
If you want to turn your video off, that might help you with the audio.
Yep. I'll try. All right. It's better for all you, at least. Yeah. I have 7 issues. I have 7 items on the agenda for tonight. Number 1 is the approval of bills. Number 2 is the approval of the district auditor. Number 3 is our deposit to capital reserve. Number 4 is the purchase of 2 new school buses. Number 5 is joining the South Bergen Workers' Compensation Pool. And number 6 and 7 are pass-through funds from the state to St. Mary's High School and the Academy.
Okay, thank you. Well done. We heard every word.
All right, great.
May I add some comments there?
Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to ask you for some comments, Joe. So.
Okay, happy to.
Okay.
First, apart from the resolutions, you may have seen a news report about reductions in state aid for the new school year. Our reduction, it comes to about $46,000. If you remember back in February, I reported to you that we were getting a small increase in state aid of about $67,000, and I probably complaining that it wasn't as much as other people were getting. But the net impact is that we're not being cut as much as other districts are being cut now at this point. So it's a net from last year of about $21,000 increase. That's what we're seeing. So so it's relatively minor. District auditor, so for a 1-year term with an option for 2 more years. The cost is in line with what we've paid this year. And frankly, we've developed a very good working relationship with them. So there's a lot to be said for that. Number 3 is the deposit to capital reserve. As most of you know, every year in the month of June, the board has the opportunity to deposit any excess funds from the current school year into capital reserve, which means we can use it in a subsequent year for any capital projects. We've put that money to good use over the past few years. A lot of these little projects or relatively little projects that are not part of the referendum get done with these funds. So what we're asking for is $1.8 million, up to $1.8 million. The fact is, at this point in time, and especially with everything that's going on this year, I don't know where we're going to end up this year. I know we're going to end up with a surplus. I'm confident with that. But I'd like to, once I get into the conversation with the auditors in several months, to be able to put some money into capital reserve, but also manage our excess surplus, which we had talked about during the budget process as well. So this will allow me to do that, but we'll still be putting some money. We will be putting, I expect, a good amount of money into capital reserve. Bus purchase, we are looking to purchase 2 buses out of this year's funds, because we do have a bit of a surplus coming up. If you'll remember, the budget for next year included the lease of 2 school buses. So we're not gonna do that. By law, once buses get to 15 years old, they have to come off the road. We have 2 buses that are coming off the road at the end of June. So we need 2 new buses by September. The lease cost that
Can I ask a question about the buses?
Yeah.
So those buses come off. Do we sell those, or what happens to those buses that we have now?
Yeah, we can sell them. We can auction them. We could donate them. They really have no financial value to us. But yeah, we can do something like that. We can see what's out there and
Okay. But we don't keep them and use them or anything like that.
No,
they go
no.
away. They're done. Okay.
We do not.
Understood.
In the 2021 budget, we had lease costs in there about $42,000. So now that we have to cut $46,000 out of that budget because of the reduction in state aid, this is how we do it. That pretty much covers it. So we have to get the buses. We have 2 of them coming off the road at the end of the month. So this will replace them. Number 5 is the workers' compensation pool. This is a pool of 17 districts, mostly in South Bergen, that have joined together to self-insure workers' comp claims. It's been a very successful pool. So this is just the agreement to continue that for the next 3-year period, continue our participation in that. And then the last 2 are the memoranda of understanding with St. Mary's High School and the Academy at St. Mary. These are just required documents. They really spell out what these schools have to do to access these funds. As Dr. Racine had mentioned, these are pass-through funds. They basically are agreeing that they will adhere to our purchasing policies, that they will keep us informed, that sort of thing. So I don't have those documents ready yet, but they're boilerplate. It's the same thing that's put forward every year. So. Any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Racine, you want to move those items?
Yep, I'd like to move items 1 through 7.
All right, do we have a second? All right, Mr. Conti, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I ask Mr. Kelly to take roll.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
I'm sorry, that was a yes?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Sprayberry?
Yes.
Dr. Awadi?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have policy. Our chair, Ms. Librera, is not here this evening, so I've asked Mr. Conti if he can please run us through policy.
Yep, we have one motion tonight put forward at the recommendation of the superintendent. This is the second reading, and it's a list of new and revised policy regulations. Like I said, this is the second reading, so they're listed in tonight's agenda if anybody would like to take a look at it.
Okay, thank you. Does any board member have comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Conti, do you want to move those?
I'd like to move these, please.
Okay, move a second.
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 All right, Ms. Jones. Any other comments? Hearing none, Mr. Kelly, please take roll.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
I read your lips on that one. Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr.
My
Healy?
microphone's on. I don't know.
Cool.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Sprayberry?
Yes.
Dr. Alati?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we're going to move on to buildings and grounds. Mr. Healy.
Yes, we did not have a committee meeting since our last board meeting. Tonight, we have one resolution for review and approval, and I'll read the end part. Be it resolved that the Rutherford Board of Ed to enter into a contract with Atlantic Engineering Laboratories, Inc., to perform specialized testing and inspection services for the district at a total cost of not to exceed $88,108 for the ongoing construction and maintenance projects. And I would like to move this resolution tonight.
Okay, does anyone on the board have any questions or comments?
If you will, this is included in the referendum budget. And this is all sorts of testing for soil and concrete and steel and fireproofing, all that sort of stuff. So it's, this was planned for, and it is budgeted at that $88,000 number.
Right, I was actually going to ask you that. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Healy, do you want to move those?
Yes, I'd like to move this one resolution.
Okay, do we have a second? Mr. Sprayberry, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll ask Mr. Kelly to please take roll.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Conti? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Sprayberry?
Yes.
Dr. Alati?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we're going to move into old business. Does anyone have any old business to bring up?
I want to make one comment if I can. When we mentioned the REF's generosity, one of the reasons why I put a tie back on today was we recorded the senior breakfast that normally would be held in the Fiesta, usually attended by about 400 people. And it's a wonderful event, and we hope that the virtual event, which will be aired Friday morning, the seniors will log in and count as attendance, as they used to take attendance at the Fiesta. That would be the day they were in school, and they'll watch the breakfast. I will tell you that although the Fiesta is a nice place to go, making scrambled eggs for 400 people isn't that great. So I'm sure the ceremony might not be as nice. The breakfast will be better at home. I'll guarantee that. But the once again, without letting the too many cats out of the bag, once again, probably $110,000, $120,000 worth of scholarships that come from various organizations in and around the community of Rutherford. So that's a credit to the community. And as I mentioned in my comments, my recorded comments, you get a trailer here, spoiler alert. I know I know how seniors are feeling, but there's a lot of people in this community that really do get behind them and pull for them. And that's a lot of money going in terms of scholarships and awards. So the next time we meet will be the end of June. A lot will have been transpiring. I may forget to mention that. I want to acknowledge our gratitude and our support to all those groups that support our kids every year.
Great, thank you. Any other old business? Hearing none, moving on to legislative update. Mr. Conti, do you have anything?
Nope, not tonight. Not that Mr. Hurley hasn't already spoken about. So.
Okay. Alrighty, then next at 8:39 p.m., we're going to open the meeting to the public for any comments related to or not related to agenda items. Yes? Ms. Corcoran, was that a hand or was that a wave? Yes? Okay. You can take it off mute.
You're off mute.
And,
Thank you. Good. I hope you can hear me. Bonnie Corcoran, 390 Montrose. Yes, Mr. Hurley, I was agreeing with you that all the directives and the guidance are all over the place, and with everything, not just with the schools, with the small businesses. And it is absolutely a big yo-yo that our kids are being put through. And yes, I'm sure Katie's going to like her eggs Benedict on Friday morning rather than the scrambled eggs that Fiesta does. But I'm really happy to hear that, everybody's doing as much as possible per the guidance of the state for these seniors. And this is just going to be something they will remember and hopefully laugh about in a few years. So, it's good to have everybody behind the seniors and all the other students. It's not just the seniors, every student's getting affected by this and every household. So thank you for your support.
Appreciate that.
thank you, Ms. Corcoran. Would anyone else like to make a comment?
Well, you missed Jack Hurley. Jack Hurley said,
Oh, you-
the food's.
You're not up.
Eggs Benedict, I might come over for that.
Okay, any other comments by the public? Okay, hearing none. At 8:41, we're going to close the meeting to the public. And there is a need for an executive session. Will probably be an executive session for about 10, 15 minutes. So do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Motion.
Jones, do we have a
So
second?
moved.
Second.
Mr.
Second.
Healy, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Okay, we are going to be moving into executive session and going to thank everyone from the public who is here this evening.
I'm sorry, Sergio, what's the purpose here?
Purpose is for the board to go over the,
There's still people here in the,
That's all right. You
that
have to
haven't dropped off yet.
state the purpose. You have to give the purpose even to the public.
Oh, you do?
so
Okay.
the purpose of the executive sessions to go over the CSA evaluation results.
Personnel.
Personnel.
Okay, I'm going to kick out everyone else. Remove. Okay, the rollout. I'm going to stop recording.